This is a 1964 Mercury Comet Caliente. Hopefully, we're going to make this car run and drive. Let's get into it. This is the 64 Mercury Comet. By 64, Comet was part of the Mercury division, but originally started out in 1959 as part of the Edsel division. By 1960 and 61, they just called it the Comet, and it was sold at Mercury dealerships, but it did not have the Comet or the Mercury badging on it. Early versions of this car were similar to the Edsel, but from 60 through 65, the Comet was developed concurrently and based on the Ford Falcon platform. So it shares a lot of parts with the Falcon. The only thing the Falcon doesn't have, it has the same quarter panels, but it doesn't have these little, I don't know what you call them, semi-fins that are on the back of it. Of course, it has the, similar to the Impala, three headlights or taillight style. They were really nice cars, with Caliente being probably the top of the line. In 64, the Comet was promoted from its economy compact position to the intermediate category, and it received a full facelift. It got additional power and luxury with a new performance model called the Cyclone. And that's one of my favorites, is the Cyclone. It entered a fast-growing muscle car market with the engine choices that included a full 427 race engine. It was built by Detroit Steel and Tubing for AFX Racing. And AFX Racing is the early version of the funny car, a factory experimental. And the 427 wouldn't fit in this car. They had to actually cut some of the inner fenders and run the headers out behind the front tire to make that 427 tough. There were 21 versions of the 64 FX Comet Caliente built by Detroit Steel and Tubing, and it's believed that there are 15 still in existence. And I've seen a few at car shows, and I don't know if they're clones, but some of them had 427s, just a few, but a lot of them had the 289, the high performance 289 that was a Mercury specific engine. They were initially only available with a two-door hardtop. An aggressive stance, which this is a two-door hardtop. Hardtop just means that it has postless doors. When you open this door and roll that window down, there's nothing in between the two. There's no door post. It just stands alone down here. Total of 7,454 examples of the Cyclone were built in 64, and the Ford Mustang's launch campaign depleted all the resources, leaving no marketing budget for the Mercury. However, Mercury's racing director Franz Hernandez bypassed the corporate rivalry with free press generated from the upstart Ford Division Racing. And I'm reading this off conceptcars.com. So I'm not plagiarizing anything, I'm not making it up, I'm just reading it off a well-known publication that's documented this car. There were a total of 7,454 examples of the Cyclone built in 64. I already read that part, I guess. Ford solid lifter K-Code 289 V8 engine was initially advertised by Mercury for the 64 Comet. After tooling was made and the dealer brochures printed, Ford limited Mercury to the 210 horsepower D-Code 289. So they took the performance car away from them to use somewhere else, the engine. But Hernandez, working with his engineers, searched the parts bin for supplies to upgrade to 289. and transformed it into a rival for Ford's K-Code 289, which was limited by its smaller carburetor, the Ford was. To get past Ford's top brass, the Mercury only 289 engine was given a K-Code. These special cars are fitted with the K289, were known as the Cyclone Super. Unlike the Fairlane with the 289, the Mercury K engines were available with a C4 automatic. The 64 Comet was square, though it was built on the same unibody as the 63 model. Now I'm having issues with that because the 63 gas tank won't fit this car. Only the 60. It's supposed to be a 1 year only gas tank. We're missing some pieces in the trunk. The Comet 404 added full-length body side moldings, and the interior was available in vinyl or all cloth. The Village wagon was $2,730 and was given imitation wood trim. The Caliente trim, which is what this car is, was available in the sedan, the hardtop, or the convertible. They had full-length molded sides, which we see all that. Nameplates on the lower front fender, which I have the nameplates. The previous owner took all the trim off of this car and wrapped it all up. It's all wrapped and tucked nicely away in one of our buildings. We have most of the parts for this car. Let's see what else they had. Standard luxury interior features include padded instrument panel with walnut grill trim and deluxe carpeting. We've took the carpeting out. Still has hints of the walnut trim, but it was a walnut veneer. I believe it's real wood. That's plastic, but the dash is wood. And the Cyclone trim level is available in the hardtop coupe with a base price of $2,650. You won't find one these days for that price. And this is probably the raggediest one we could find. We didn't look for it on purpose. It's just what we came up with. It needs full quarters. The trunk needs to be replaced. Needs a gas tank, which for some reason the gas tank on this car is 3 times as high as any other car. I think there's a Ford Mustang gas tank that's similar that will fit this car, but the fill nozzle's in the wrong place, which is not a problem. The door's shut amazing on both sides of this car. The hood was working good, but it's kind of the latch is kind of rusted. Matt and I've got involved with tearing this engine down. Not really tearing it down. We put a water pump on the front of it, new thermostat, new gaskets in the front, tightened the belt up that was loose. And here in a minute, I'm going to pop this cap off and see how clean the points are. And that is supposedly a filter in there, and I can't get it off. So I'm going to go find a strap wrench and try to get that filter housing off. And this car does not have a gas tank. It's rotted completely out. Someone has put a air tank in the back and fitted it with fuel lines, and that's what we've been running this car on. We've drove it around a little bit, but we've not drove it in a long time. We pulled it down here with the rollback, and this is where it's set for the last 6 months. So we get closer to the garage and closer to the air hoses. But it needs a little work. We've got some new parts on it, but we're a long way from getting it starting and running. It had all new brakes on it when we got it off the previous owner, and had new tires when he put it in the barn, which is probably, he put it in the barn with new tires on it 18, 19, 20 years ago. But it's never been out in the weather until I owned it. Once I got it, it's been sitting outside. But and water is getting in it, but there's no carpet or anything in it, so it's not hurting nothing. But hopefully we get this thing going soon. I'd like to buy a few little parts here and there and try to get the water out of the inside and put all the trim, put some floorboards in it, put all the trim back in it. It's not that hard. It's just going to be a fun project. Well, I can't get the little cup off of there. I don't know if it's a filter or not. I thought the fella I got it from told me you could screw that off and clean it out whenever it started running bad. There's a smaller filter down there. I'm going to get it out of there and put one of the clear filters on it so we can see exactly what we're dealing with. See if I can take that out. Well, I got the little filter on there. It's pretty, the gas is pretty clean. It's not been that long since we put fresh gas in it. Now I'm going to have to move on to trying to find I got a battery cable in there somewhere. I may see if I can find the whole entire cable. I think ground's not looking so hot either. So let's see what I can find in my stash. I found a little ratty cable here that looks like it'd been cut. It's kind of like it's been overheated a little bit, but I had to put a new end on it. I got a crimped a new end on there. Then I'm going to put some of this red shrinky dink tube on there, and it should be fine. The hole may not be big enough for the terminal. Never thought about that. I may have some bigger ones. Should give us a little better cable. Had to waller the hole out a little bit with a stepper bit. Those stepper bits work 60% of the time, every time. Yeah. We got this little gadget. Cleans your post, and you're supposed to ream the inside of your cable ends out. It's going to take 2 hands to do it. I'll come back in a second. There it is. It cleans it up pretty nice. Cleans this old junky one. It's all melted and beat. But it cleaned up pretty good inside. May have to have a new bolt. It's a crappy looking bolt. Probably needs to be spread a little bit. We'll fix it. Had some kind of explosion a while ago. I don't know if it was a wreck or what, but it sure was loud. Coming from up the road somewhere. We'll find out in a few minutes. Now I can't start it right now. We've got the old radiator out. And of course we broke the end pieces off. And it's just old rotten line. And Matt's going to pick up some adapters so we can put our new radiator in. We're just going to rubber hose it. Going to cut what rot we can off of that and rubber hose it underneath the fan there. Should be fine. Shouldn't be any problem at all. We're ready for a battery. We've got a good charged battery inside. We'll put the radiator in, some antifreeze, probably put water in to start with. Make sure we ain't got no freeze plugs or anything blown. Clean the motor up good, then we'll drain the water out and fill it full of antifreeze. But we know the motor runs. We know the transmission works. But the new brakes the guy put on it, we're going to have to take these drums off and get these liners beat loose from the drums, because 2 of the brakes, I think they're the back ones maybe, are locked up solid. So some work to do there. We'll get it done in a little bit and we'll be back. Well, I've got the hood latch off the Comet on the bench here, and it was a mess. And the biggest problem, we're not able, when we latch the hood, we can't get it back open, and we realized this safety catch that the spot weld was broke, so I cleaned it up and drilled the spot weld out. I'm going to put the spot weld back in it and try to repair this safety latch. But the main latch itself was horrible. It was corroded and it wouldn't move. If you opened it, it would stay open. The only thing that would hold the hood down was this safety. So I've started cleaning this up, and I've got junk everywhere. It's throwing all this bunch of crud. I got it soaking right now with some WD-40 to try to loosen that spring back up. Try to wire brush it, get it back clean, but I guess I'll take this over to the welder and try to put that spot back in where it belongs and get this thing back functioning like it should. You could pull on this little latch all day and it would never pull this catch back because the weld was broken. So we was having a time getting it open when we had it closed, so this should take care of it. Okay, got a little, it's hard to see, a little rosette weld in the middle. Filled it in. I also put a little tag right there, so it should be pretty good. We got these fittings in the mail today to go into our radiator. We broke the radiator fittings off when we removed the old radiator, so we're going to have to put a little piece of hose on the bottom of each one. These are national pipe thread. They should fit, because that's what I tested into it. Yep. These are brass and the radiator's brass. So I'll just have to put a little bit of Teflon tape on these. Probably don't need it. I'll put a little on there anyway. Now we've got 2 stub outs for our transmission lines, and they're the same inside diameter. I think they're 3/8. These are inside diameter 3/8 and the thread is 1/8 National Pipe Thread nail. So we'll put these in the car, and with a little bit of Teflon, of course, and then we'll run a little short piece of hose because we're going to have to cut that pipe off clean where it was twisted. That should take care of a little problem. This is a Vaporust. It says Super Safe Rust Remover, and I've been using this stuff for a while. And I dipped the hood latch and safety catch for the Comet in it. And let's take a look and see what happened. Well, here it is. I didn't get a picture of it, I don't think, after I done the rust remover, but it took every single drop of rust off of it. And here's where I welded the pieces back together. And I put some primer on it and some, I think it's POR that I use. Let me get the Canon. This is that POR Paint Over Rust 15, POR 15 top coat. And it's DTM, it's direct to metal. So you can spray it right on the metal. But I did primer it anyway, but just because I had it down to bare metal anyway. But it cleaned, the spring was just about rotted off. It cleaned the spring up and all the mechanisms in here. When I get it put back on the car, I want to spray. I got some WD-40 that's for latches and things. It's got like a white lithium grease in it. And that dip that I put this stuff in really cleaned it up nice. And then I painted. I wish I got a picture of it before. It looked like it'd been sandblasted. It was so clean. And then I took the little bolts that were just completely rotted, and it cleaned those threads right out. They look brand new again. I just sprayed the caps of them. The black that's on the bottom is actually part of that process, that rust remover. It turns them black like that. It gets all the rust off and turns them black. It's pretty cool. Now, if you got a really rusty bolt, you drop it down in it, you can get it out the next day, and then the threads will be gone. Because I've had that happen before. I've put some old Nova bolts in there. I think they were hood spring bolts, and there was no threads left when I took it out. I don't know what these two little bolts are for. They're for something different. But, we get everything set up over here, and we'll take a look at the hood. This hood is pretty raggedy right here, where the bolts goes and stuff. It's got a little bit. Looks like somebody has hit something and bent this hood and put a crease all the way across it. So I may have to try to source another hood. I may be able to straighten this one out, but there's holes in it like it's been shot. I guess they made holes in it so they get back in there and get the wrinkle out of it. That's crazy. But we'll try to make it do. All we're going to do, we're not trying to restore this car. We're just trying to get it where we can run it and drive it. We've already put a water pump on it. Needs a fuel tank, and I know this motor runs. It just had a bad radiator. We couldn't run it long, so we're going to try to get our radiator in, but I ain't going to be able to do that today. Let me get this cleaned up, and we'll spray it with some of this POR and see what it looks like. Okay, we got the rust wire wheeled off. Put a little bit of POR 15 on it. Put a little down here on the latch mechanism. Now we're going to put our latch on, see how it looks. Well, she's on there. Now I got to get some of that lithium grease, that WD-40 spray lithium grease, and put on these moving parts. And this thing should be done. Everything lines up, latch is good. I got the latch finished and covered up a little bit of rust that was starting to grow out here. These old cars, they don't like to be set outside, but I ain't had nowhere else to keep it since I got it. But I ain't going to get to start it today. I've still got to put the radiator in and put those lower transmission lines. I just now got the fittings for those. I've got to cut those lines off a little bit because they're cracked. Put some rubber hose on them. That's all we're going to do today. And stay tuned. This is a work in progress, so come back and join us next time. We're going to do a little more to it. Maybe try to start it up and put some brakes on it and drive this thing. It's been sitting. I've had it for 6 or 7 years, and I know the other guy had it for 15 years, and he never did drive it. He kept it in a barn, though. I've not kept it in a barn. Used to have pretty nice chrome on it until I backed the skid steer into it and bent that one piece of chrome. But we've got all the rest of the chrome, all the pieces for this car. But thanks for riding along with me. I do appreciate it. Maybe next time we'll get it cleaned up and get it running. And as always, like and share and comment. We appreciate your comments, good or bad. We need to know what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right. So everybody, please subscribe. We need all the subscribers we get. We're not yet monetized. We're a new channel. And I guess come back and join us next time. Thanks for watching, everybody, and stay clean.